I just finished a romance anime named April Showers Bring May Flowers. Was it good? Bad? Did I like it? Let's talk about it. Alright, what's up, y'all? Hope y'all are doing well. Today, we have another romance anime review for you. Today, we're talking about a show called April Showers Bring May Flowers. But you also hear me refer to as A Bouquet for an Ugly Girl. Because at first, that's what I thought the actual title of the show was, because the anime site I was watching it on named it that. But then I looked it up and I found out that it's named, April Showers Bring May Flowers, but Bouquet for an Ugly Girl is like the Japanese direct translation of it. So if I say Bouquet for, like, I'm still talking about the show name, it's just whatever. All right, I just finished watching it, and we're doing another review because I think, I have enough to actually want to talk about this show. Like I say in every video, we're striving for one full video a week, and that's what we're doing today. Another review. Last week's was more of not a review but just like a talk about it, and I appreciate the love on that video. That video kind of blew up randomly. I don't know where that was from, and I appreciate all of you guys for viewing the shorts and the videos and all that stuff recently. Like, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, again, striving for one video a week, and potentially this week might even be a bonus video coming out. I can't guarantee it 100%, but there's a good chance that there's a bonus video coming out this week as well. Maybe you see that one before this one, I don't know. But now let's get into the full review. So this show, April Showers Bring May Flowers, Bouquet for an Ugly Girl, however you want to call it. The main character, we have Hana Tabata. She's a girl that doesn't have a lot of self-confidence. She continually thinks of herself as kind of ugly and kind of like a side character in the world. She just sits at home, loves her romance games. I can relate to that. And flowers. She loves flowers, gardening, all that type of stuff. And yeah, she's kind of like, doesn't have a lot of confidence in herself, look and personality and all that. The one thing I will say about this show that really, I kept thinking about throughout the entirety of watching and all this stuff is she's not really ugly. Like, yes, she may not look like other like main anime girls that you see all the time in these shows, but she looks like a normal person, and that, honestly, there's some sort of charm to that I like, that this is just like a normal looking person. Like, you literally go to Walmart or something and see this person just walking around and you wouldn't really think of it, but in her mind, because she, watches all these romance shows and all these stuff, that she doesn't think she's like that cute looking. And maybe she's been bullied in the past, I don't 100% remember, but yeah, that's like the main thing of the show, is like she struggles with, she doubts herself a lot. So we're gonna start with the romance moments. That's gonna be the majority of this video, talking about the romance of it, obviously, and the romance between her and Ueno, who's the main guy. This is like typical main guy, popular guy in school, does sports, everybody's friend, easygoing, all these girls like him, pretty boy, you know what I mean? But he's not really cocky about it. Honestly, he's kind of stupid, and as we go through these romance moments, you're gonna see he's kind of an airhead. The first meeting we see between them is Hannah arrives early to school one morning to arrange the flowers in the classroom. That's what she does all the time. She's picking the flowers, So she's arranging the flowers, puts them in her hair, trying to messing around, and Yuino comes in to school early and finds Hana there, and I guess for her, on her side, it's an awkward moment for her because no one's ever seen her like that, especially, Yuino, this is a popular guy, but Yuino is just like there, normal, whatever. And so Hana is trying to like talk to Yuino throughout the entire day, trying to have them keep it a secret that she's the one that arranged the flowers, because I guess she just doesn't want attention, which I can kind of relate to, I guess. And so she spends the whole day trying to find a little bit of opening to talk to Yuino, but it never happens. So even when they do talk, she's super, I guess, self-conscious, so she just never really can open up to him. After a lot of trials and tribulations, eventually Yuino finds her watering flowers in the back of the school, and they talk, and he learns that she arranges the flowers every day, which he admires, her arrangement, and he's like, dang, I was wondering who was doing that. It was you. That's so surprising. And eventually they talk it out, and he says, yeah, sure, I'll keep it a secret. It'll be our secret. He says in, a tone, Later, also in this episode, Hana is part of the beautification committee, which works on the flowers, and one of the partners in the beautification committee in the class tries to ask Hana, like, hey, can you like go for me today, because I have other things to do, all that stuff. Yuno hears this, and then a little bit later, Yuno hears that girl that told Hana, like, hey, I'm not going, that basically she flanked on her for no reason. She just didn't want to go, and she left it all up to her because who cares, And so Yuno kind of doesn't like this. He finds Hana working on the flowers and helps her. They have a cute moment there, showing just how good and pure-hearted Yuino is, because at the end of the day, he's a sweet, wholesome guy. At the end, after they're working on the flowers, they go to 8-Eleven, nowhere near 7-Eleven. Why would you even think that? And they go eat, drink, hang out a little bit. They're way too nice to each other, where they're both offering different foods and drinks as for payment, and they're both just way too nice and awkward for each other. Next moment, they go to bowling with the entire class. They end up in a group together, and Yuino teaches her how to bowl, and they just have cute moments there. The next moment is Hana and her family go out to eat for her birthday, and surprise, Yuino works here at the restaurant. And so Yuino meets Hana's parents. They talk it out. Hana's mom really likes him. They figure out it's her birthday, and Yuino does all these great things for her. Even, when she gets too awkward and embarrassed and puts her hand on the grill accidentally, he comes over and gives her like an extra cup of water with ice to like help out, the healing, and just, again, show he's a nice guy. And then once they learn it's her birthday, he gives her a coupon to come back to the restaurant. And we see throughout this episode too, in this moment, that Yuino definitely has some sort of feelings toward Hana. Even if he never says it out loud, you definitely tell he kind of has something towards her. Another smaller moment is Yuino and Shinbashi, one of his best friends. They're out at the mall together hanging out, and they're talking about girls, I guess. And Yuino kind of hints to Shinbashi like he likes quiet, more serious girls, which is who Hana is. So you can kind of make the connection of like, oh yeah, that's why he has something for Hana, because that's what his type is. In another episode, Hana tries to get her notebook back from Yuino because they actually crashed into each other, and Yuino helped pick it up, and he actually took one of her notebooks. So Hana's trying the whole day to try to get it back from him, but can never really find a moment. And eventually she has to go over to his house because Yuino and her mom got close because of that restaurant meeting or whatever. And so she wants to send something to his house. So she forces Hana to go over to his house to, bring it to him. And that's where they find the time. So eventually she comes into the house, meets his little brother, who little brother figures out that she has a crush on him a little bit. And so he kind of holds that over her. And eventually, they talk it out, get the notebook back. She tries to run away, but then Yuino grabs her when they're talking about a hairpin. And he says, hey, the hairpin looked nice on you. Another little cute moment. But then after that, Yuino is kind of in his own head thinking that, did I bother her? Did I embarrass her by grabbing her for no reason? Like I shouldn't have done that. It goes the entire day, thinking that it bothers her, thinking she doesn't like me anymore and all that stuff, to eventually it comes to a point where it doesn't bother them at all. And then they talk it out and back to normal again. Then we get to the culture festival, where there's one point where Shinbashi and Hana are just talking, about things. And Shinbashi kind of, hints at a crush that Hana might have on Yuino. And other people come around and they start talking about it. And then Hana, because she's so kind of worked up and embarrassed, she feels like she has to get out of the situation. She shouts, no, anybody but Yuino. To their surprise, Yuino is actually right there behind them. And Yuino gets kind of heartbroken and sad. And then there's a whole episode basically of a misunderstanding where Yuino is kind of running away from Hana because, she feels too embarrassed for her, so he doesn't really want to talk to her. But then, Hana's saying, oh damn, I messed up everything, and so now they're kind of drift apart a little bit, and we have another misunderstanding. Then eventually later, with Yuino doing a soccer match, Hana works up the courage to go over there, and eventually she kind of yells like support, caught him off guard. He gets hit with a soccer ball. They lose a soccer match, unfortunately. And then eventually at the end, Hana gives Yuino the letter, basically saying, hey, this is all a misunderstanding. Eventually they talk it out, and now we're good again. And by the way, it's going to happen a lot more times in this show, so get ready for misunderstandings, non-communication, and then we make up somehow. We get to another episode where Yuino and the guys are just having a conversation, I guess, and he gets embarrassed because Hana was there and they didn't know it, so now Yuino thinks that, he embarrassed himself in front of Hana, so now it's kind of like a little bit of a drift, while Hana is kind of staying away from Yuino because Hana actually put on too much perfume and thinks she stinks, and so she doesn't want Yuino to smell her like that. And it's another misunderstanding where they both kind of think the wrong of the other person, where Yuino's like, oh dang, she thinks I'm weird now, and then Hana's like, oh no, he thinks I smell. And so now they're kind of not trying to see each other again, all that stuff. But then eventually at the end of the day, it's raining, Hana's umbrella gets stolen, and so Yuino gives her his, and he just walks home in the rain. But then eventually Hana goes home, puts on a rain jacket, comes back and finds Yuino to give back the umbrella, and eventually they just walk home together and make up, and again, everything's normal again. The next moment, they go on a school barbecue with the entire class, and eventually, they have moments where they're close together. At the end, Hana has rice balls that her mother made, but she doesn't really share them with everybody else because someone else also has rice balls they made. But then Yuino goes over and sees like, oh, you have some too? I'll eat them. And they just have this cute moment together. And then at the end of that day, Hana trips and ruins the fireworks for everybody, but no one really cares because everyone's like, it's okay. But then of course Hana, being herself, she kind of runs away from anybody, is kind of stepping away from everybody. She's like, dang, I ruined the whole day. But then Yuino's the one that goes over, cheers her up, talks to her, and eventually they have sparklers together, and it's a very, very wholesome and cute moment. The next episode is Yuino's birthday, and Hana promised months ago during their birthday restaurant thing that they'll celebrate their birthday together. So Hana wants to give him a birthday present, but doesn't know. So eventually she becomes friends with his little brother, and they go out and shop and try to find something for him. And they also make a plan for the next day for Hana to unexpectedly show up to their house and give them the present and talk it out and all that stuff. But when Hana's on the way over there, she gets occupied with so many things. She helps a child, find their parents. She sees a wallet on the ground and tries to give it back to the police station. And she just gets so caught up that it's been hours and hours and hours, and now it's late. And, still trying to go to the house. Meanwhile, the other friends show up to Yuino's house, for their birthday. But you can tell that Yuino is kind of sad that Hana isn't here because that's really the only one he kind of cares about. But then eventually they end up meeting because Hana left her phone at home. So she goes back home, finds her phone, they talk, they eventually meet up somewhere, they give the presents, and it's, all good. The next episode, they go to a festival together because everybody else cancels on them. So they go to a festival by themselves and they're eating food, playing games, photos together, the whole nine, having a really, really good time. Then eventually Yuino sees some of his old middle school friends. Eventually they meet up with each other. Hana kind of runs away out of embarrassment. And then there's a point where the dude there grabs Yuino, is like, hey, is that your girlfriend or whatever? But like, couldn't you pick someone cuter? And kind of disrespects Hana to where Yuino kind of stands on business and kind of says, hey, like, no, get away from me. You're not going to do that. And he runs away to find Hana and wants to be with her because it's like, yo, don't disrespect her. Like, that's crazy. And eventually they watch the fireworks together. Everything comes out all good. The next moment, there's a storm and a blackout at the school while they're, after school staying there. And eventually they find each other. And they sit down and talk to each other. Yuino gives her a sweater. It's a very wholesome moment, cute moment where Tabata is kind of, Hana is kind of like, well, Hana Tabata is her name, and I call her Hana, but you call her Tabata. I don't know, call her whatever you want. But Hana's there. She's kind of super flustered at this whole situation. She tries to get up and run away like the awkward self she is. She slips on something, falls back into him, and now they're really close to each other awkwardly, and it's like a embarrassing moment. They also do a class play, and after the class play, they both try to help a child find her mother. They have a cute moment there. They meet up with some of the old friends, an old friend that they both know, Akanabe. And eventually Yuino kind of gets jealous because for some reason in his mind, this is where things start to get kind of weird, where Yuino is like, oh dang, Hana, she had a friend, like, and it's a guy. That's weird. And the way they look at each other, and he kind of gets into his own mind and for some reason thinks like, oh shoot, there might be exes. Like, I don't know where that came from, but that just kind of got into his mind and he couldn't stop thinking about it. And so the next few days, he kind of is just spaced out. He's not eating. He's not really talking to his friends. He's not playing good in sports. He's just kind of spaced out thinking about like, dang, is that, ex? Like, does she still like him? Like, what's going on? And eventually later, he goes and spies on her and Shinbashi going out to a restaurant together, talking, and he's just all up in his own head. A little bit later, the class goes to a karaoke, and Yuino gets confessed to by a random girl. But then he says, no, like, I like someone else, whatever. Hana hears this. She goes outside and kind of like super embarrassed by it. But then Yuino comes out to find her. They talk outside, and eventually he confesses to her randomly out of nowhere, saying, I want you to, like, tell me things and rely on me because I love you. And that's just like a, whoa, okay, we got a confession moment out of it. Now we go to the final episode where he gets movie tickets, goes on a double date. Him and Hana, they're not together yet. They still haven't really talked since the confession, but just trying to, like, break the ice, clear the air. They go on a double date with two other friends. They watch the movie. There's a cute moment during the movie scene where he falls asleep on her shoulder, but then gets woken up, and it's all that. And then later they're talking after. Yuino has to go to the bathroom, so he leaves Hana alone. And then Akanabe comes over there because Hana drops her glasses. Akanabe picks him up and is like, hey, what's up? And they're just talking. Yuino comes out, sees those two talking. He gets super, super jealous, gets in front of him, and then just like runs away with her. And while they're on the walk home, Yuino kind of is like, hey, I'm sorry about doing that. Just like, hope you and Akanabe have a good time, and runs away with her from her. Basically still thinking that for some reason they like each other. I don't know why he's making this so difficult. And the difficult thing about it is they don't communicate at all. Like, Hana doesn't say anything back to it, just kind of lets it happen. And now she's just sitting there like, did I do something wrong? So now for the last few minutes, she's just thinking like, dang, did I do something wrong? You know, she's the self-consciousness is at a 10, where she's like, oh my God, like, dang, I'm ruining Yuno's reputation. He doesn't want to be seen out with me. Like he doesn't like me. I don't want to make him hate me because other people might hate him for liking me. And she's going through everything in her head, and eventually they're both kind of like drifting apart from each other a little bit. But then she goes to a flower shop run by this woman who knows Yuino and all of them. And while she's talking to this woman about everything's going on, this woman texts Yuino like, hey, like Hannah's here. She wants to clear things up. And so he runs over to the flower shop, hears what Hannah has to say about him. Again, Hannah with her, awkward self tries to run away, but then Yuino goes out and chases her. Finally, they want to talk it out. And so while they're running, they're just talking out different things. Eventually, they end up confessing to each other, and doing like this. I don't care what other people think. I want you. I like you, and all that stuff. And Hannah's still like, dang, like, you really want to be seen with me? Like, I don't want to hurt you. And Yuino's like, I don't care. I like you. Like, I don't care what other people think. Eventually, they end up dating in secret, kind of, is what the agreement is. And the final scene we get is the next day. Hannah's there early arranging flowers. Yuino comes early as well, compliments her, gives her a bouquet of flowers, and that's how it ends. Overall, good romance. We have some wholesome moments, some cute moments, embarrassing moments, a confession, that happened in the last 2 or 3 minutes, like all romance do, I guess. And overall, just good. The side characters, get into the side characters, they play a big part of the story too. The main one is Yugui Sudani-san. Yugui Sudani is her name. I'm gonna call her Yui because I'm not gonna be able to say that name. And even if I do say that name, I'm gonna probably sound like I'm saying a slur. So I'm just gonna call her Yui from now on. She's a popular girl, tries to keep up this image of like, I'm pretty, I'm nice, I'm like the main girl, and she has a crush on Yuino. So the entire show is basically her trying to get with Yuino because she thinks they'll make a great couple, tries to get with him, but eventually when Hana comes into the picture, eventually at first they become friends, but then she like becomes her friend to try and like see what's going on, because she knows that those two like each other, but she's kind of like, okay, what makes her good enough for him? And eventually she like wants to hate her, but she can't because at the end of the day she's just a good person. So it's tough, because so it's like, dang, I'm your best friend, but also I want him, but I know you kind of want him, even if you don't know it yet, and you two have great chemistry, but I'm kind of trying to come in and try to take him from you, kind of. So it's like they're kind of mean, but not. Like, she's still her friend, but still trying to backstab her in a way. It's very weird. But yeah, she even says so many times, she's like, for my image, I have to keep up my image. I have to keep up being the pretty, the main girl that everyone loves. I have to keep that up. But at the end of the day, at the inside, she's, jealous, angry, wants Yuino for herself. Eventually, at some point, she confesses to Yuino, to where she gets rejected, obviously. And she has a moment where she's crying on the stairway. And Tabata comes over to kind of like console her, not knowing what happened. And she's just like hates it because she's like, dang, like I want to hate you, but I can't hate you because you're such a good friend to me, and it sucks and it hurts. And eventually she also gets closer to Gotanda, who is another friend we're gonna talk about in a minute. And those two kind of have not really a romance, but it kind of is like a side romance of like, oh shoot, what's going on here? But overall, Yui is a good character. Well, of course, we always see an rival here, and she felt like a rival, but she also never felt like she really had a chance, because even the times when her and Yuino are together, it's always about Tabata. It's always about Hannah. Eventually they talk about Hannah, and all that stuff. So like, honestly, she was the first one that kind of knew there was something going on between them, even before maybe they knew. Like she spotted it right away. She's like, oh, there's something here with these two. I gotta come in quick and try to get Yuino. And she has all these plans to try to get with Yuino and all that, but they never really end up working out in her way in the end. Overall, she's a solid character. I mean, I never really loved her a lot. I knew she never really had a chance, but I never hated her at all. She kind of was just like, even when she was talking about backstabbing Hannah, I didn't really believe it, because I was like, you two are such good friends. It's not gonna happen. You're a fake demon. Gotanda is another character. Him and Yuino are good friends. He's more of like the quiet, brooding, tall guy. Doesn't really show a lot of emotion. Is always kind of just there. Kind of feels like it's the security of Yuino sometimes. But throughout the entire show, I was thinking there's gonna be something with him, because they show him a lot and they give him a lot of like kind of spotlight a little bit. So it's like something's gonna happen, and eventually he becomes the one that he figures out Yui first. He figures out Yui has a crush on Yui, and he figures out the whole plan of Yui trying to find a way in, kind of trying to get Hana out the way, and he's kind of trying to give her advice as well. She's like, hey, just be yourself, you're not gonna win doing any of this. And eventually, and Yui kind of hates Kotana at first because he's like, why are you always getting in the way of everything? And Kotana's like, hey, I'm just trying to help you out. So eventually, after they confess to each other, or after Yui confesses to Yui and gets rejected, Kotana's kind of there to help her out. She's kind of there to kind of cheer her up, even asked her out, just to be like, hey, what do you want to do today? I'm here to help you out. They even go to each other's houses. Like, they become really, really close, good friends. And if there is more to this show, if there is a season 2, again, I don't read manga or anything like that, so I don't know. There's probably something happens later in the manga, I don't know. Don't tell me either. Don't spoil anything. Well, maybe you can spoil this one, I don't know. If, there is more to, if there's a season 2 to the show, I think there could be a point where those two kind of get a romance together, which honestly I wouldn't mind, because I think, like, even when this was happening, I was like, dang, are they going to get together? Because it kind of looks like they're kind of trying to push towards that. But overall, he's a good person, even though he is not really an emotional guy. He's always, kind of brooding around. In the end of the day, he's just, he has a good heart, and it's nice that he tries to help her out through all this. Next, we have Shinbashi, another one of the friends. Very, hyper active, kind of. He was someone that was kind of like a nobody in middle school, so he tries to go to high school and kind of be this different personality, changes his look up, kind of trying to be like the popular guy that wants all the girls, all that stuff. He has a crush on Yui, so it's like a weird, like, these two side characters of Yui and Shinbashi both are kind of like the same in a sense, same but different in some weird way. And Shinbashi, the whole show is trying to find a way to get with Yui, and even tries to get Hana to help her out. He's like, hey, Hana, you distract Yui from her so that I can come in and kind of get with Yui. But overall, he's also a good friend to them. Like, he helps when Yui has to talk things out, he's always there to help him out. Even with Hana, they become good friends where they both help each other out, where Shinbashi's like, hey, if you ever need anything, I got you. I'm just trying to be a good friend. Even with the movie tickets, at the end where they're both being awkward, Shinbashi's like, hey, make it a double date. I'll bring another friend. You could bring, Hana. We can kind of make this, like a good thing, so you don't have to be alone together. Like, Shinbashi overall, at the end of the day, good friend. Definitely wants Yui a lot and tries to be like the main character a lot in the show. But I still kind of, have some sort of respect for him, because at the end of the day, he is a good friend over everything else. And finally, we have Atsuka. She comes in very late in the show. She comes in like the last 3 or 4 episodes. And it's very interesting because at first, when she's first introduced, it seems like she's gonna like go after Yuino as well. It kind of seems like we're gonna have like a third challenger in the mix. But then at the end of the day, she more just, at first she stirs the pot a little bit because she's like, hey, because with the festival, she was there at the festival, and Yuino, the middle school friends that Yuino met up with, and the guy that was like, hey, you should get someone cuter than Hannah, she was also a part of that group, but she wasn't there at the time. And they told her like, hey, Yuino might have a girlfriend. She's like, oh, really? And so she comes in right away and kind of stirs the pot a little bit of like, hey, so I saw her, you went with a girl to the festival, you have a girlfriend, all that stuff, and kind of spreads that rumor around. And we think that she's going to be like, oh, she's going to try to slip in, and kind of steal and going to be like, this villain, because we don't really have a villain, kind of. We need a villain. But then she turns into just like a good person, and a great friend. Like, her and Hannah kind of become really close. She tries to help Hannah out with Yuino. She even helps Yuino out a lot. She helps Kotanda out a lot. Her and Yui become good friends. Her and Shinbashi become good friends. She realizes she brings like the positive energy to the group, where if someone's going wrong, you say, hey, what do you want to do? Like, we should all hang out together, and do something, like, she is actually like a ray of like positivity, trying to help everybody out, even with the movie tickets. When Shinbashi was trying to get the double date, Shinbashi actually was trying to get Yui to go, but he accidentally tells Atsuka to come with, and Atsuka says yes, but then we learn that she says yes only because she knew what the situation was, and she just wanted to help out Yui, and Hana and all of them. So at the end of the day, someone that we thought was going to be a villain, eventually was like the most positive character in the show. So yeah, Atsuka, really, really cool. Overall, this show, it was good. One thing I will say about it though, it does hit a point where it feels like it gets boring. Like, I've honestly, the last 4-ish episodes, you kind of are sitting there and it's like, All right, it's honestly it's around the part where Yuino kind of learns his feelings a little bit, and the part where Akanabe comes in, that other guy that was friends with Yuino and Hana, and for some reason Yuino thinks like they're, like, oh my, there might be exes, all that stuff. Like that's the point where it kind of gets weird and a little bit boring, because it feels like it goes through the same kind of cycle where it's like, all right, there's a misunderstanding that happens. They don't talk it out at all because they're both too awkward, because Hana's too in her own head about everything, and Yuino's just kind of like dumb a little bit, and so there's no communication. And then it takes like a spontaneous thing to happen at the end, to where the last 2 minutes they kind of figure it out, and it's like, okay, we're good now. And it's like, once it happens once or twice, it's like, okay, once it keeps happening over and over and over, and even the last episode it happens for the entire episode, it's like, all right, like, can we speed this up a little bit? Like, I feel like in romance shows, the part where like they figure out their feelings to the point of confession is like a kind of a little bit of a bigger part of this. And I feel like for this show, it got boring, because I feel like there was kind of no real progress made. It kind of felt like, all right, we take a step back, drift away, then progress. Then we take a step back, drift away, then a little progress. Then drift back, step away, it's a little bit of progress. So eventually finally they confess, and finally they become dating, all that stuff. And honestly, kind of questioned at a lot of points, like, aren't they gonna actually be together? Or are they just gonna be at the end like, we're good friends and they both self crushes, but they're not gonna say anything, but they're just gonna keep this friendship like this? Like, I honestly thought there's a pathway where that was gonna happen, and I was kind of like, okay, but eventually they figure it out. But yeah, it's just a constant, feel like the same thing going on, and it gets definitely a little bit boring at sometimes. But I still think it is a good show and a wholesome show, and a show I would, I guess, kind of recommend. Like, there's still moments I enjoy, there's still characters that I enjoy. Overall, it's just a solid romance. I don't think it's anything super spectacular, but I don't think it's bad at all either. I think it's just kind of like in the middle of like, okay, like an average, like your average romance anime. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's where it really, is in terms of what I think. Like, I'm always gonna go and recommend, go watch the show and, figure out your own opinions of what you like about it. I'm never gonna say, what you should or shouldn't like. If you want to, like, I always recommend going and watch the show, whether before you watch the reviews or after you watch the reviews, or if I inspire you to watch the reviews, or if you just want to watch it just because, I don't know, go watch it, I guess. But overall, I would say it's solid. The self-confidence thing is a big theme of this show, where it's like, again, the main character, it's funny because we don't actually see anybody bully Hannah at all or call her ugly. I guess we get little things where it's like, that guy that tells you, like, you should do someone cuter than that. Even in the background, once in a while, you see a girl kind of be like, but, you should be with someone like that's like a model, or like super, super pretty, I guess. We get a little bit here and there, but like Yui never calls her ugly. Like, Yui never thinks she's ugly, not even Cortana or Shibashi or anyone. Like, they don't really, like, bully her at all. Like, these people actually are really nice at the school. Like, the class always goes together and gets out like a barbecue or karaoke or do something. Like, they're actually really nice to her. She's the only one that I feel like is negative in the show, where she's always like runs away from everything, kind of saying in her own head, it's just an ugly girl, I'm not supposed to be with you, and all that. And it's crazy how much self-confidence could do things to you, like looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, I'm ugly, or like, I don't deserve this. The theme of the show is kind of saying like, hey, it doesn't matter, what other people think of you. It's what you think about yourself, and you should be able, and just learning how to love yourself, I think, because at the end of the day, she gets the guy. Even with her being quote unquote ugly in her own mind, she gets the guy. So I think it's a lot about like loving yourself, your self-image and self-confidence. I think there's like a thing with that, which is why I kind of would recommend the show a little bit, because it definitely tackles that a lot. But overall, at the end of the day, I think it's solid. Again, your typical average romance. Don't think it's anything super spectacular, but I don't think it's bad at all either. It's a very solid show. Overall, I'll give it, I'll give it a solid thumbs up, That's all I got for this. Again, we're focusing on one full video per week. A short just came out the other day, go watch the short. Again, there might be a bonus video coming out as well this week. Maybe probably more on the weekend, like on a Sunday or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, continue to commit to this, once per week, doing different romances, all that stuff. Honestly, I think next week's video will probably be about an older show. I don't know if it'll be about, you know, a show that came out in the latest season. It probably will be about a show that either came out before that season, or a show that I just really want to talk about. Because honestly, the last few days, I've been looking at other older romances and been like, oh dang, you know what? Like, I want to rewatch this. So maybe it'll be about an older show or whatever. We'll see what happens. But yeah, if you do like the video, hit the like button. You know, I really appreciate that. And leave a comment about the show, or about, you know, other shows I should watch, or me, or whatever. I guess, you know, it helps out the algorithm. So, you know, leave a comment down below. Again, like the video and hit subscribe button. You know, if you do like the content around here, if you like hear me yap about romance animes and, you know, whatever, hit subscribe. I really appreciate it a whole lot, and turn on notifications as well. Also go subscribe to my main channel, Everyday Hoops, where I talk about basketball over there. Literally the exact opposite of what we do over here. But yeah, if you like basketball, if you know somebody that likes basketball, you know, let them know about the channel down below. We're going crazy a little bit over there. And yeah, that's all I got. Hope you guys have a good day, and peace out.